Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, the program dedicated to sharing timely information about the community hospital that's been taking care of Washington Township Healthcare District residents since it opened in 1958. Washington Hospital Today is provided for the sole purpose of informing residents about healthcare topics and issues that have been covered during community forums, free health and wellness classes, or as part of educational sessions held during the district's open board meetings. This program is one more way that Washington Hospital helps empower you, the residents of the district, by providing information needed to make informed decisions about your health.
Good morning. It is my privilege and honor to appear today in front of you. And my goal today is to make sure that no one you know, no one you love is a victim of any kind of a crime. I'd much rather see you in this kind of a forum than in a courtroom as a victim of crime. So that's my motivation. So on behalf of Tom Orloff, the District Attorney of Alameda County, and the District Attorney's Office, I thank you for letting us do this presentation.
My feelings are exactly the same. I hope to see you here, not in my office.
All right, let me see if I can make this work. We're going to talk today about a lot of things. We're going to be talking today about senior safety, and it's a little bit broader than financial scams only because one thing can lead to another. And we're going to start out talking about why seniors in particular are targeted for financial scams and other scams. Why do bank robbers go to banks? And that's why seniors are targeted, because in the United States, demographically, seniors tend to hold most of the wealth. And it makes sense. You've worked your whole lives, you've invested, you've paid for your home, you're not putting kids through college anymore, you have money in the bank, you might have a pension, and you don't have the expenses that a younger family does.
Your home is so valuable also. It has so much equity in it. They know that also.
There are other reasons that elders are targets too. One thing is generationally, people who tend to be a little bit older, who may have been born during the Depression, lived through World War II, served in Korea, it's a different culture than cynical post-Watergate me, for example. My parents, who are in their 80s, are much more trusting and much more ready to believe somebody than I am. I am just more cynical. And the perpetrators of crimes against seniors know that. They're going to target you, they're going to target seniors because they expect you to rely on a handshake and to believe what is told to you. And that's a good thing that you're trusting, but you have to know that's why you're targeted as well. In addition, things happen to seniors that make them a little bit more vulnerable. And this language about external controls and internal controls is language from an alleged reform con artist. And he was asked, who's the best target for a scam? And his response to detectives who were debriefing him was, anybody who is missing their external controls. That means people who are isolated, who don't have family or friends, are not connected to a community, are great victims. That makes them better victims. Or anyone who has any kind of cognitive impairment for any reason. So that would be internal controls, the way your brain functions. And no matter how many crossword puzzles we do or how strong our brain may have been, as we age, we just do not process information as quickly as when we were younger. And you have to know that you might not be taking in the information as fast as it's coming. You may have even seen this on the highway when you see an older driver who is going 45 miles on the freeway. The reason that driver's going 45 and not 65 is because he or she cannot process all the information you need for driving at 65 miles an hour. It's too fast. So that's a pretty obvious example of, so often seniors do not process information as quickly as younger people. Why is that important to know? What do scam artists do?
Very fast.
They talk, talk, talk. And they don't really want you to catch everything they say. They're going to keep talking at you, and if you're asking for a timeout, they're going to keep talking anyway. So you have to know that to make yourself safe. I want to talk a little bit, and I hope Brian's going to be jumping in, a little bit about personal safety, because I had a string of crimes, cases that I was prosecuting, where, in my personal opinion, seniors were targeted and followed. So I want you to be aware that sometimes seniors are targeted because you might move a little slower, because they think you might be carrying large amounts of cash, and you have to be aware. I've had many cases where very trusting seniors have allowed strangers into their home, and you kind of say, oh, come on, you'd let a stranger in your home? Why don't you give an example, Brian?
There's multiple examples that can be given, but you know, where here it says, even if she says she needs to go to the bathroom, most of us think men are creating the crime. It's not true, especially in financial crimes. It's women perpetrating this particular crime. They'll come to your door and ask to get in. Example on the bottom one, or what somebody might claim to be a PG&E worker. You know, you can get a costume anywhere. You can go to the thrift store and pick up a costume. You can go to a costume shop and get a costume, and you're gonna believe they're a PG&E worker, water worker, or whatever. They're gonna want to get into your house. Don't let anyone into your home at all unless you have already made an arrangement for them to come to you, not them come to your home unexpected.
You know deep in your heart, you know about stranger danger. You may have taught that to your children or grandchildren. Remember it for your own personal safety. People are strangers when they come to the door. Your home is your sanctum. Don't let them in. Also, don't let strangers into your car. When you were a young driver, did your folks say, go ahead and pick up hitchhikers? No. You've got to remember the lessons that you taught to your own kids in order to be safe. So, stranger danger, that's the first one. You have to be aware of your surroundings and the people around you and whether you have become isolated. Because there are hoodlums out there who will follow you and get you to a place where you cannot find safety. And that's when they'll attack. That's what predators do. So you have to be aware. And do you have an example of that?
I've had examples where people were followed out of a bank, followed all the way home, and not knowing that anybody's following them, and been robbed as soon as they get out of the car. Now, just like Eileen is saying, you need to be aware of anybody around you. Most of us drive down the road, don't see a single thing. I'm driving down the road as part of because of the way I'm trained, I'm looking all the time, even in my personal car. Many times I tell my wife, honey, did you see that? And she'll say, what? But the truth of it is, most people, tunnel vision, going straight down the road, getting to where they need to be. You need to be aware of what's going on around you or who might be watching you. Don't want to make you paranoid, but these are things you need to do.
And that's why we're not saying be paranoid, we're saying be aware. You have to be aware. You have to keep your awareness up. And a good follow-up on this one is trust your instincts. And I have to out myself on this. Many years ago, I was followed in my car, and I knew I was being followed. And I convinced myself, I talked myself out of believing that I was really being followed, because it was late at night and I just wanted to go home, and it had been a late, really long day. But the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. My instincts told me that there was danger. I couldn't tell you what it was, but my instincts told me there was, and I outsmarted myself. I convinced myself that I was being paranoid. I pulled into my driveway. I saw a minivan drive by. I completely relaxed, thinking, it's just a minivan. Somebody else is coming home late. No, it wasn't. It was a stolen minivan with juveniles with guns, and they came back and robbed me at gunpoint in my driveway. It could happen anywhere. It could happen to me. You have to believe it can happen to me. And the point of that story, the reason I out myself on that is I knew there was something wrong. And if I had trusted my instincts and done what my dad had told me to do before I was allowed to drive, if you think you're being followed, go to the busiest, brightest place and make a scene if you have to, I would have been safe. But I outsmarted myself. So you have to trust your instincts. If you sense that something is not right, believe it and get out of there.
It's not. Just like she's saying, if you feel it, and I'm sure everyone in this room has felt it at one time or another where something's not right. Do not second guess your intuition. It's right.
It is appropriate almost every time you're approached by a stranger to just say no. Somebody calls you on the phone and makes an offer to you, no thank you. Somebody comes to the door and offers to do something, no thank you. Somebody approaches you in the grocery store parking lot, no. You get to say no. And you have to be able to say no to be safe. If any of you carries a cell phone, and I strongly encourage you to do it, it's a great, wonderful tool for many, many things, and you need help, call the posse, call the police. But you have to know that your cell phone has to be programmed for that. Brian, what happens if you call 911 from a cell phone?
Now, it depends where you're at if you call 911. And it also depends how busy the cell tower is that you're bouncing off of. If you call 911, depending on where you are, you might get Fremont Police if you're in the city of Fremont. You might get CHP depending on where you are in the city of Fremont. Same thing holds true for Newark and Union City. It all depends where you are and what cell tower your phone is bouncing off of. The concept is very good, 911 directly to a police department, hopefully a local one. But what you need to do is you need to program in your local police department's phone number. So it'll go directly to our dispatch. We have it provided for you there, and those of you who have cell phones, I highly encourage you to put that in.
And you can put it on one of the speed dial settings. You can have it as an emergency setting. You can have, emergency is the Fremont Police Department dispatch or Newark or Union City. And I strongly encourage you to do that. I have my local police department cell phone number, or the emergency number programmed in my cell phone. Because where I live, if I dial 911, it goes to CHP. It does not go to my local agency. And CHP will connect you to the local agency, but there's a gap. And if you're in danger, you don't want that time gap. You want to be able to have somebody respond immediately. Now we're going to be moving on. I mean, that's all about personal safety, because we want you to be personally safe. But we're also going to talk about financial safety. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about financial safety. And here's a good thing you got to trust your instincts about. If it really does sound too good to be true, guess what? It is. Believe it. There is no such thing as a free lunch. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. And if you remember that deep in your soul, you are less likely to be scammed. One of the ways the scam artists work, doesn't this look like personal safety issues? They like to isolate people. So they are looking for someone who is living alone, doesn't have family access or doesn't have a lot of family, doesn't see people. The more isolated you are, the fewer external controls you have, the better target you are for a financial scam. It's just a lot easier. Just like it's easy for a predator to go after somebody in a dark alley because they're isolated, the financial predators will go after someone who does not have connections. The more connected you are, the safer you are for financial scams. You got to talk to people. Now, I know a lot of seniors, when their kids or their friends are asking about financial issues, they'll say, it's none of your business. And on one level, you're right. It's your money. You get to make whatever decisions you want. But don't exclude people because that makes you vulnerable to scams. If somebody is approaching you with a deal or an idea for some investment, you got to reach out and talk to other people. You really do, to avoid isolation and avoid being a target. You get to say no. And I can't say this enough. Just say no. If somebody comes to your door, comes to your phone, or approaches you in a parking lot, you get to say no. If you are looking for a roofer, you can go to the Yellow Pages or find out from your friends who they use to redo their roof. You don't need some guy who's knocking on doors or leaving little tags on the door to tell you what you need done. And if you're going to have major work done, the Contractor State License Board, and I'll give you their website later, recommends that you get multiple bids. Don't rely on one bid. Yes, it's a hassle to interview more than one contractor, and yes, it's a hassle to get more than one bid, but that's how you protect yourself. You just say no to these unsolicited requests.
You know, back to the having your homework done, there's people moving around the whole state. Matter of fact, they usually go from Arizona, Nevada, California, coming through pretending to be contractors, offering you a great deal at this time. They may say, we just so happen to have this leftover material, and we could fix your roof today for a mere $3,000, or we could fix your driveway or your fence or such. These are people that are going to come in, do very shoddy work. Like she's trying to explain, you need to contact your contractors board to verify these people are in fact who they say they are.
And we'll cover that a little bit more later. You need to protect your personal identifying information, and this is so that you don't become a victim of identity theft. Now, it's my understanding that if you are carrying a Medi-Cal card, your Social Security number is on that. That means your Social Security number is on you at all times. If somebody steals your wallet, they've got your Social Security number. I know that Social Security and Medi-Cal are working to have different numbers associated, but right now, you know that you're at risk. If you don't need to carry your Medi-Cal card, leave it at home so that if your pocket gets picked, it is not stolen. You need to make sure you're not giving out information over the phone about your mother's maiden name, your driver's license number, your date of birth, or other personal identifying information. Because there are scam artists out there who will sell that information, and you could become a victim of identity theft, and you won't even know how it happened.
Those of you that are in the military, retired military, you know that your military cards has your social on it as well. Again, you have no need to carry that unless you need to go to a base or something along those lines. So also keep those things at home.
We've touched on doing homework. I cannot stress enough that you really need to do homework before you spend a lot of money. If you are going to be buying a new refrigerator, you want to make sure you get the best deal on the refrigerator. You might want to check different ads. If you're going to refinance your house, you want to do a lot of research. Your house is your biggest investment. You need to do homework. You need to ask around. If someone is telling you that this is a secret or it's a limited time deal only, you got to act now, and they're pressuring you into something right away and they're not allowing you to do your homework, that is a huge red flag of a potential scam. Legitimate business people won't withdraw a legitimate offer. They will want you to check it out. They do want you to do your homework. They do want you to be comfortable with whatever investment or purchase you're going to make. You do get to walk away and think about it and process the information at your own speed. If somebody tells you you shouldn't or you can't, then they are grooming you to be victimized. So you got to do your homework.
Just think about that. You're going to experience it. Just think about what she's telling you. It's going to back your head. You're going to say, oh, I remember hearing that. I could just say no, or I could say, come back later.
And you get to take your time. Again, if somebody's pressuring you, you need to walk away. Now, what Brian and I and a lot of people who have unfortunately prosecuted elder abuse cases know, the big secret about elder abuse and financial abuse is that most of the time, the people who perpetrate the most financial abuse are the people that you love the most, the people who have the most access to you, family members or caregivers. They may realize that your memory is failing, you may not know that, and they can use that to their advantage and wipe you out financially. So, beware of your enemies, beware of your friends. You have to be aware. And it may be very wise to set up a system of checks and balances before it's actually needed. If you're going to set up a trust for down the road, you might want to have a group of people involved instead of one person, just so that there's a system of checks and balances. And those are all things you can discuss with an attorney or a trusted advisor. But you have to know that most of the abuse is perpetrated by the people who are closest. It can be a caregiver who comes to your home who went through a background check and had no previous history, but all of a sudden has access to your personal identifying information and wants to go to Greece, and so gets credit cards in your name and goes to Greece on your dime. And I've had that case. That's why I'm using that as an example. Or jewelry gets stolen.
Sounds like a great vacation on somebody else's dime.
It's always better on somebody else's money.
What I have experienced, though, when you become abused financially is when you are allowing only one person to handle your finances. If you are going to have somebody handle your finances or help you pay bills, require 2 signatures on your check. Don't let these people get away with only 1 signature. Next thing you'll find is they're taking your money and using it for their own personal needs.
And they convince themselves that it's okay. They get to the point where they've lost their moral compass. Well, I'm helping them. They want me to have it. And they really make it okay in their own minds that they are stealing your money. It's not okay, and you know that. So you need to set up, as we said, some system. Now, I have these pictures of a shark and a wolf because the people who prey on elders are predators. That's what they are. They pick victims who appear vulnerable. Think about those National Geographic or Discovery Channel shows that show these animals in the wild. The lioness is crouched. She's on the savannah. She's watching the herd of gazelle. And they're at the watering hole. And she's watching and watching and watching. And she decides who she's going to pick for lunch. and she runs at the herd of gazelles. She wants not the biggest, fastest, or strongest gazelle. She wants the old, or the lame, or the very young. And she will isolate that animal. She'll run at that animal and isolate that animal from the herd, from protection, and she will pounce on the animal and have lunch. It's a very graphic image, but you have to remember that. That's what predators do. They pick a vulnerable victim, they isolate, they attack. Okay?
You think that that's kind of, well, gee, that's animals. But it's true, exactly what she's saying. You'll see people out at the supermarket, out in front of Kmart, out in front of Walmart, and all they're doing is just watching like this, looking as people leave, watching them walk to their car, picking out the weak to go after them, exactly like she's saying.
So you have to have that visual image, because the predators don't look like sharks and wolves. None of these people depicted are predators. These are stock pictures from the internet. The point of this slide is to show that we don't know what a predator really looks like. And you'll see there are a couple of women here, because most of the financial scams I prosecute, most of the caregivers I prosecute for financial abuse of elders are women. So just because she's female doesn't make her not possibly a predator. She can be the sweetest, nicest caregiver in the world, and you still have to watch your purse. She can have worked for you for 3 years, and you still have to watch your purse. Okay? You can trust, but you have to be aware.
I have yet to meet one person that I've arrested for financial abuse that's not personable. Nice people to talk to. All they want to do is steal your money, though.
And there are lots of different ways, as Brian was talking about. Lots of different ways these people can target their victims. They go to the senior centers. They go to the churches. They go to Home Depot and the grocery store. All of these places are places where seniors and everybody else goes, but they can be standing outside and looking for a mark, and you have to be aware. There are some, this is an obituary that I found from the San Francisco Chronicle, and I've hopefully gotten rid of a lot of the personal identifying information. This is stuff that is available on the internet and available in newspapers. This is the obituary for a man who died in his 80s, and it contains lots of personal identifying information. It talks about his family, what he did for a living, his widow's name, his children's name, his grandchildren's name, things that were of interest to him. There are scam artists who will wait for 30 days after the funeral, will get the phone number for Doris and call Doris up and pose as a friend of her now deceased husband. And Doris is probably in her 80s, and she may say, well, I don't really remember you, I don't remember your name, but because the person posing as a friend has so much personal identifying information, Doris will believe that this is a friend of her now deceased husband. Why is that important? Now all of a sudden, Doris might trust this person, and Doris is being groomed to be scammed. This is a stranger, and they will stoop so low as to call a widow after the obituary for her husband has been posted in the newspaper. And that's one way that they can find a potential victim, somebody that's more isolated now than they were before, a person who had external controls, had a spouse, and now is alone. That's how they do it.
Now, you might ask yourself, why are they waiting 30 days or even longer? It's because they know that you're going to have company. They know you're going to have people there to support you after your loved one has died. So they're going to wait till that time when you're alone, and then they're going to pounce.
And when you might be feeling lonely. They are very manipulative. They are predators. They know how to play. A lot of scam artists rely on prior victims. So this happens a lot of times in churches where somebody says, we've got this great deal, and they get a bunch of people in the same faith community to invest, and everybody says, oh, well, Mrs. Jones did it, so it must be okay. A lot of the door-to-door unlicensed contractors rely on prior victims too. You see that your neighbor just had their driveway resurfaced, and it's only 2 doors down, so you get a business card from the unlicensed contractor. It's like, oh, why don't you do my driveway too? Or the contractor comes to your door and says, hey, I've got some leftover material. So they rely on these prior victims. There are so many ways to get information about each and every person here today. There are high-tech ways. There are things on the internet that there's a lot of personal identifying information about people on the internet. If your name is at all unusual, I encourage you to do a Google search of your name. If your name is John Smith, your name is probably, it's a little harder to figure out who you are. But if your name is at all unusual, if you put your name in quotation marks and do a Google search, you'll be amazed at what comes up. Many charities that you may donate to put out donor lists, and they post them on the internet. If your church bulletin is posted on the internet and you participated in the carnival or something, your name may be in there. There's a lot of information out there. There are also search programs, things like Zaba, where somebody can find information about you because it's been collected by other people. If you get a Zaba search on somebody's name and all you have to know is the state where they live, you might get their year of birth, their address, and their phone number. A lot of that information is right out there. And then there are low-tech ways to get a lot of information about you. Say you go to the grocery store and you use your Safeway or Lucky card, and the cashier says, "Thank you, Ms. McAndrew, for shopping at Safeway today." Now the guy behind you in line knows your name. Thank you, Ms. McAndrew. And if they follow you out to your car and you're not aware of it, they could follow you home. Now they have your address. And if your mailbox isn't locked, now they can get some other information from your mail, and they can create a whole lot of information about you. So, yeah, not to make you paranoid. I know that sounds like, futuristic and paranoia, but to be aware. There is a lot of information that people can gather about you if they want.
Let's back up to that Zaba search. I really suggest you go home, and those of you that are online, get onto Zaba search. It's Zaba.com, I believe it is.
Z-A-B-A.
Enter your information, and you'd be amazed at what's going to pop up. Those search engines are incredible. I use one called Accurate.com, and it provides not only your information, but it provides your family's information. It provides homes you've lived. Probably, I could go back to the early 70s. It's incredible what you can get off the internet. And there's pay sites also where people can search information on you or others.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about scams. Scams and schemes. There are people out there who are not caregivers. There are people out there who are targeting seniors, and the way they do it is really just relying on what makes you human. They prey on our basic humanity. Anybody here consider themselves to be a good person? Oh, come on, please raise your hands. You're good people, okay? We're good people, okay? We want to help. Who in this audience is a trusting person? We have to. We trust every day. We have to trust that people will stop at the stoplight. And who here would not, you want to make a buck? Oh yeah, sign me up. Who here would not want to make a buck? Okay, so I call these the 3 Gs. Scam artists prey on any one of these: our basic goodness, our gullibility or trustingness, and our greed. Any one of these human factors makes every one of us, myself included, Detective Ancona included, susceptible to some kind of scam. And we'll show these, we'll have some examples of that. But think about that. Your basic goodness can make you susceptible to a scam because you are just trying to help. You just don't know that some of these scams exist, so you believe and you trust. That makes you vulnerable. And you're trying to make a buck, who isn't, and that makes you vulnerable, okay? So here's one, and this is a good example because it kind of preys on all of them. This is sometimes called a charity switch, a Jamaican switch, a South African switch, depends on who the players are. And you'll see some little props on this one because this is actually from a case that had a happy ending. And I'm going to tell you the story because part of it you're kind of going, oh my goodness, this is so convoluted. But remember what scam artists do? They talk, 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 talk so that you cannot process all the information. So I'm going to be talking like the scam artist did. Mr. Victim is coming out of the Big Lots store. And there are a lot of seniors in that particular shopping center because there's a Big Lots and there's a grocery store and there's a pharmacy, right? That's where seniors go, right? And he's walking out to his car, and it's a softly raining day. It's just raining a little bit. And he's going out to his car when he is approached by a man wearing a coat and tie and carrying a briefcase. The man, using a fake South African accent, says to Mr. Victim the magic words to all people who like to help: "Can you help me?" Bingo, Mr. Victim says, yes, what can I do to help? That's his immediate response. My response is, you're invading my personal space, back up. But Mr. Victim says, yes, what can I do to help? Because he sees somebody who he thinks is a foreigner, he's well-dressed, he's very presentable. He doesn't know that this guy is a 10-time convicted felon. He doesn't know that. How would he know that? So his immediate response is, yes, I would like to help. So Mr. Felon, Mr. 10-time convicted felon, I'll just call him Mr. Felon. Mr. Felon says, I need a ride to a Catholic church. Would you be able to give me a ride? So Mr. Victim says, sure. Now you're saying, red flag, you don't let strangers in your car, right? Good response, remember that, okay? First red flag, don't let strangers in your car. So Mr. Victim says, sure, let me give you a ride to a Catholic church. He thinks he's just helping a foreign person who's in need of assistance. Mr. Felon then says, I need to go to a Catholic church because I have all this money that I need to donate to the Catholic church today. So Mr. Victim's feeling really good that he's going to help this guy out, right? He's feeling good. I can help this guy donate money to charity. Excellent. I'm a good person. I'm helping. So then Mr. Felon, who has a script and props and an accomplice, Mr. Felon says, you know, the reason I have all this money is because my brother, who was a doctor at Cal, was killed on September 11th. You might have heard about it. He went down on the flight that went into the field in Pennsylvania, Flight 93, and he was killed in that crash. And I'm here in the United States because I have this letter from the lawyer that says I'm here to collect a $300,000 settlement. Okay, so why are you in San Leandro with $300,000 cash? But Mr. Victim is just trying to help. That thought doesn't cross his mind. He's like, of course I want to help. He's so stuck on trying to help, he doesn't realize that some of the story is starting to fall apart. So Mr. Victim, it says, yes, I'll take you to the church, not a problem. So they start driving. As they're driving, Mr. Felon says, I'm a little bit thirsty. I'm wondering if we could stop at this little mini market so that I could get some water. Mr. Victim wants to help. He says, of course. So they stop at a mini market. The reason they stopped at the mini market is because Mr. Felon's accomplice, we'll call him Mr. Accomplice, was in a car following, and he drove past them and parked up the street. Guess what Mr. Accomplice was wearing? That's right, a coat and tie, and he was carrying a briefcase. He also had many felony convictions and was on parole for doing the same thing, but he was very presentable. Who knew? So now Mr. Accomplice comes back to the mini market, and as Mr. Accomplice comes back, Mr. Felon comes out of the mini market and tells Mr. Victim, let's ask Mr. Accomplice, this stranger I've never seen before in my life, if he knows where there's a motel. And Mr. Victim is not thinking, wait a minute, I thought we were going to a church. He's thinking, I'm trying to help. So because it's raining, suddenly he has two convicted felons in his car. And the reason there are two is because now Mr. Felon tells the entire story, the entire fabricated, fraudulent story, the whole setup to his accomplice so that Mr. Victim can hear. It's a setup. So here's the story. Mr. Felon says, my brother was killed on September 11th. I have this $300,000 settlement. I have this letter from South Africa that says I cannot bring this money back to South Africa because if I do, they think I'm an arms dealer and they're going to seize the money and they're going to arrest me. And I want to donate this money to charity because it's my brother's legacy. That's all I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to do a good thing. So great. So Mr. Accomplice is in the back seat and he says, I have an idea for you. I can help you get that money to a charity. You know, it's late in the day and I know you have to leave for South Africa tonight, but we could go to my bank. I'm a legitimate businessman. I will withdraw $10,000 in cash to show you that I'm a good person. And if you trust me, you can give me, I don't know, half of the money you have, and I'll put it in a safe deposit box and I will find a charity to give your brother's money to. So they have Mr. Victim drive to a bank. They drive to Bank of America. They park way far away from the bank so the surveillance cameras don't see them. Mr. Accomplice pretends to go into the bank. He comes back out. He has, hope I put these in the right order. He has a little flash envelope. That's the picture on the right-hand side. It's got a couple of $100 bills in it. And he says, here's my $10,000. It really was about $1,000. Here's my $10,000 to show you that I'm a legitimate person. So Mr. Felon says, I trust you. They pray, and they, oh wait, gotta go back, sorry. They pray over this money, and then Mr. Felon says, here is half of the money. I've wrapped it up in a bandana for you. You go deposit it into your safe deposit box. So Mr. Accomplice pretends to do that. He goes back into his bank, and he doesn't go in the bank. He pretends to go in the bank, and then he comes back out and says, okay, I have put the money in the bank. Can I have my $10,000 back? And Mr. Felon says, oh, sure, here's your money back. Then they turn to Mr. Victim and say, okay, now that you know that we're all on the up and up and this is a good deal, let's go to your bank. You can withdraw $10,000 and you can get $150,000 and you can go put it in your safe deposit box. So they are on their way to the victim's bank when this story does have a happy ending. When some Good Samaritan saw all this exchange between the two talking people and the confused 80-year-old, and he called the local police department and said, I'm worried about this older gentleman who's got a couple of young people in his car, and they're talking at him, and he looks really confused. I don't know what's up, but it looks bad. So here's his car, here's the license plate, here's the direction that they're going. And the San Leandro Police Department pulled over the car, and they recovered all these props. Because what they were going to do to Mr. Victim is they were going to give him a bandana with this, a wad of cut-up newspaper. Mr. Victim was supposed to bring $10,000 of real cash out of the bank. They were going to pray over it. They were going to give him a wad of allegedly $150,000. He was going to go into the bank to put it in a safe deposit box. He would open it up, and he would find that. He would go back outside, and the men would be gone with his $10,000. So luckily, like I said, a Good Samaritan interrupted that. Now the point of this story, and I know it was a little bit long, here are all the props that were recovered. The point of that story is how does it work with those 3 G's? It started out because Mr. Victim is a good person and he was trying to help. That's all he was trying to do. He was trying to have this man give money to charity. That's a good thing. It worked because Mr. Victim was trusting. And ultimately, the coup d'etat is that it plays into greed. You can make $150,000, all you have to do is give me 10. Okay? That's why I use that as an illustration of how scams work, because they're very effective. And these scam artists are professionals. They have a script and props. They know how to play. They are professionals, so you have to be aware. And this is just one example. There are lots of others. So, how do you avoid being a victim of this kind of a scam? You don't have to stop being good. You get to be good. You can still be a good person. But you don't let strangers into your car. Stranger danger. Really, don't let strangers in your car. If somebody really does have $300,000 that they want to donate to charity, don't you think they could call a cab? Don't you think you could give them directions to the local church? You don't have to let them in your car. So basic stranger danger. Of course, you don't take strangers to your bank or your home. Again, stranger danger. You don't want to act in isolation. If somebody's doing this story, you can say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this. I'd like to call my son. They will run away. They will leave. Or you can just pick up a phone. They might run away as soon as you pick up the phone. You don't have to follow up with them. You don't have to be isolated. And of course, you do not have to give your money to strangers, even though they seem really nice. As Brian was saying, these con artists are very personable. That's how they work.
If somebody approached you in a suit and a tie, carrying a briefcase, wouldn't you think they're legitimate people? And it's not like someone walking up to you in a t-shirt and worn out jeans. So you believe them. You want to believe them.
That's called a costume. So you got to remember, they've got costumes and props and scripts. They are professionals. Now, the next one, and Brian, I'm sure you've seen this a lot.
A lot.
This one is a heartbreaker to me. These sweepstakes or lottery scams. They claim that they're from some other country, Canadian sweepstakes or, Irish sweepstakes. They claim to be some international kind of a sweepstakes. By the way, you never entered it. And you couldn't have because you don't live in Canada or Ireland, okay?
So how could you win without entering?
And the way these scams operate is they convince you that you have won money, but you have to pay something to get it. That's the bottom line. And because people get greedy and they want all this money, guess what? They pay. So sometimes they also ask for account information to verify so they can transfer funds. So then they can destroy your financial security by getting into your bank accounts. They do lots of different things. And they require that you send money, that you wire them money.
If you win, you don't have to send any money. They're going to send it to you. So just remember that when you start, they ask you, please send us money for taxes or whatever reason they give you. When you win, you receive. You don't give out.
Now, this is actually a letter that was received by somebody who forwarded it to our office as an example. And I'm going to highlight certain sections of it. It looks legitimate. It's a letter. It came through the mail, and it came with a check. And I'll show you that in a minute, too. It came with a check. Yay, money in the mail. Can't beat that, right? Okay, here's the first red flag. The first red flag is that it's from Ontario. That's Canada. Okay? You can't win an international sweepstakes you didn't enter. Okay, that's the first red flag. So if it's coming from another country, you know that there's something wrong with it. There are other sweepstakes frauds, but the ones we see the most are these international ones. The next red flag is, of course, you're therefore entitled to win $250,000. For what? You didn't enter anything. Okay?
Sounds good, though.
It does sound good. It would be nice. The next thing is here's what you got to do. And I know there's a lot of text here, but I'm going to read it so you know what it says. To expedite the processing, enclosed is a check in the amount of $4,875 US dollars, which is part of your winning being sent to you. The sole purpose of this check is to enable you to pay for the applicable government taxes on your big winning. The tax amount is $2,975 for the government tax. This amount is to be paid either by MoneyGram or Western Union directly to the tax agent. When the winning is processed, you'll receive your final check for $245,000. And here's the person to contact, your tax agent. So you're supposed to call this long-distance number, and Mrs. Jackson will tell you what you need to do. You're going to have to cash this check, and you're going to have to immediately withdraw the tax money. And you get $2,000 out of it. It's a check for $4,800, and you only owe $2,900. So they want you to process that check, deposit it into your account, and withdraw cash immediately, and wire it through Western Union. Guess what? The check is no good. It is a fraudulent check.
What I do is I recommend people to wait at least 10 days before they send out any money. I've had many people call me that they've won the lottery, they've received such a check. When I try to explain to them that it's a fraud, it's a scam, they don't want to believe me. They want to win. And I try to convince them, put this money into your bank. Don't take it out if you don't believe me. Let it be returned by the bank that it's counterfeit or there's no funds in this account. Banks want your business, so they will let you put that money into your account and they will let you take it out. So then you'll be held responsible for what's lost.
So what happens more often than not is somebody will deposit this check and they'll follow the instructions and withdraw the $2,000 or $3,000, and they don't have $3,000 in their account. So then the bank comes after them for overdraft fees and other things. So it's more than that as a loss. What's even more tragic is then some of our victims, they're so convinced that they've won that they call the tax agent and said, hey, that check was no good. And the tax agent will send them another check, and they'll do it again.
We're sorry. It was a mistake. Let me send you another check. This one will be good. I guarantee it.
And they'll do it more than one time. And consider how awful that can be for someone who has any kind of memory problems or any kind of cognitive impairment. These are predators. They're coming after the easy target. So stay in touch with the people you love. Stay connected so that people are watching out for you. Do your homework. Let these checks stay in the bank. If you really think you won, let the bank clear this legitimate check. It's not going to be legitimate. It's not a check that you won. So how do you avoid that? The basic rule, if it sounds too good to be true, let me hear it. It is too good to be true. Remember that. And you have to protect your personal information, and don't believe it. It just is a scam. If it were legitimate, you could say, oh, you know what, go ahead and take the taxes out of my ultimate check. Just take it out off the top. I don't want to have to do all that banking. Guess what? You'll never see a dime. You'll never see a dime because it's a scam.
That's the way winnings are done. If you do win, they'll take the taxes out before they send it to you.
So that is a scam. And we'll take questions in a minute. Fraudulent charities. Who here wants to be a good person? We know you all do. So many of us like to contribute to many charities. And there are scam artists out there who know that many seniors like to contribute to veterans funds, police officers, firefighters, those kinds of funds, and they make up fake names for charities, and they solicit you, and you might get something in the mail. You might get somebody coming door to door. If you want to make sure that you're really giving to a legitimate 501c3 charity, a real charity, you can do homework. You can check it out. And the way you do that is you can go to the Attorney General's office in California has a website. You can also check with the Better Business Bureau. There are lots of ways to check. It's about doing your homework to avoid giving away money to illegitimate charities.
I'm sure many of you have had solicitors come to the door asking for donations for this, that, or the other. That's the time when you ask them for, can I have some literature regarding your, whatever they're trying to get money for, whatever reason? And most often you will not get any literature from these people. They'll say, I'm sorry, we don't have anything to give out.
Or they're green. Oh, I'm sorry, we're trying to be a green company, so we don't want to have all that litter. That's why we don't have any materials. So, you know, do your homework. It may sound like a really good charity, and it may be a real good charity, but before you give them anything, even $20 at the door, you should check it out. There's no reason that you have to give charity money right there.
I like this next topic. It's basically called phishing.
Yes. Now, the next several slides are all courtesy of the Fresno Sheriff's Department. They put these together. What they're showing here is that this was the first page. They opened an email from somebody claiming to be, what is it, Citibank. And Dave Case works with the Sheriff's Department of Fresno. That's why it's open to him. And the first page looks really good. It looks very similar to this TCF Bank page. Okay? The next page, he's looking at here. It says the second page, they're asking for confidential information. And there's no lock. One of the ways you can find out if you're using online banking or any other website and you want to make sure that it's a secure website is there's usually a lock. You know, it looks like a little padlock in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is missing. There is no lock on this particular screen because this is a fake one.
Those of you that are on the internet, have you already received spoofed sites like this? Has anybody received anything? There's a few people out there. It's happening on a regular. I've received them at the police department.
Right. Because they send them to everybody. They send them to everybody, and they're hoping somebody's going to open it up, because when people open it up, they get something. It's worth it to them to send out 10 billion requests because somebody might respond.
You're going to get a certain percentage who are going to bite on this, and they're going to send the information that they want.
So this is just a quick check. So then they check something out to make sure, you know, since there was no lock, the detective in this case did a right mouse click, and it says this is not encrypted. That means that this is not a secure website. You don't want to give out any personal identifying information, account numbers, or anything that you care about to a website that is not encrypted, that is not secure. Okay? So this was a website where you could check that out right away. Then they're asking for all this information. They ask for private information, and this particular detective just presents him with a bunch of garbage because he wants to see what the next page is going to be. And what he determines is that they get a website that's not the bank website, and it comes from somewhere in northern United States. Okay, so that's just one example. Here's what the real website looked like, and here are the differences. There's a lock. Do you see the lock in the bottom right-hand corner? There's a little right arrow to it. At the bottom it says this is the real bank's webpage. Note the address at the top, the lock at the bottom indicating it is encrypted, and the box that resulted showing that it is encrypted. That's what the real bank website looks like. Now, the bottom line is if you are not a customer at TCF Bank, you shouldn't be opening that anyway. And if you are a customer, you might want to check with your bank before you open this, because you might want to find out what the bank is or is not asking for. What you will learn if you call your bank is that they do not ask for account information. They ask for a password because you've already set something up for online banking. They already know your account, and they don't lose accounts. Their system doesn't crash and they've lost all the account information and you have to give it to them again. Those are scams. That's called, as Detective Ancona said, that's called phishing. So you don't want to give them information that they don't have, and that's what the scam artists are doing. But this is the legitimate website. That's what it looks like. So how do you avoid internet? You want to make internet scam, banking scams, you want to see that the website is secure. And you can check by checking for that little lock and see if it's encrypted. You want to double check. So how do you avoid these kinds of scams? Just say no.
Open the emails and that's it.
Well, that's an easy one. If you just avoid the emails. But sometimes you might think that your bank does, that the bank is sending you some information that you might need.
You might bank with that bank.
Yeah.
They might send a Citibank, they might say Bank of America, might say Fremont Bank. You might bank with that bank. Now you open it up, like you said, call. Let's just say you open up that website and there's a phone number there for you to call. Don't call that one, because that one's going to be spoofed for them already. They're going to have a fake phone number in there for you to call. Call your normal business number that you call.
Look at the one on the back of your ATM card or on your bank statement. So how do you avoid these? Don't open the internet or the email if it's not your bank in particular. If it is your bank, you can check with your bank about what information they would want. If they're asking for account information, you know it's not legitimate. If they're asking for your social security number or any other personal identifying information, it's not legitimate. Your bank has that and they don't ask for it.
Not just your bank, but any company you're doing business with, they have all of your personal information already. They have it backed up once or twice in the event that something happens to their system. Do not give out information.
If you do provide that information, now you have just given somebody access to your accounts, and they electronically become you, and they will drain your accounts. They will act as though they are you, and your money will be gone. And it'll be gone so fast, no one will know where it went. We're going to talk about a few other scams that we see particularly on the internet. However, these scams also happen in the mail, and they happen over the phone in a little bit different form. Okay, so scams can happen anyway. These are just some examples of some things that have come into my office or Detective Ancona's office or the Fresno Sheriff's Department. They come everywhere because these people are looking for anyone to bite. So we're just going to have a few examples. So we're going to talk about some other internet scams. This is one that preys on your basic goodness. It's a plea for help. Some stranger, somebody you don't know, who lives in a country you may not have ever heard of before, has some illness that may or may not exist, and they want your money to help them. Okay? That's what happens. And they are sending you, they're asking you for information so that they can see if they can trust you to help them. It is a ploy to get information. It is a scam. You have no idea who they are or what they're really up about. Here's one that came the other day, and I didn't have enough time to edit it because it came in like 2 days ago as I was finishing my presentation. But the next slide is going to show you an email that came into an organization called scamnot.org. Yes, they sent it to an organization called Scamnot, and it is a scam, okay? So what that tells you, if you respond to the email that they sent with the information they ask for, you give them control over your internet accounts. And many people have used their internet accounts to make online purchases or do online banking. So some of your account information may also have been stored, and they can really mess you up. So would it be a good idea to give them the information they request? No. Let's just say it right out loud. No. So I'm going to show you a couple of things and give them away. Okay? And one of the things that this email attachment said is, one thing, they say, we're your server, but they don't say who they are. They don't identify who they really are, and there's some typos in it that are kind of funny. Okay, so this is what came in. To undisclosed recipients, okay, first clue. Email shutdown notice. Attention email account user. They're not saying Yahoo or Google Mail or AOL. Just email account holder, user. This is a message from the webmail messaging center to all account owners that they're currently carrying out an upgrade, so they've lost all your information and you need to give it to them. And the second paragraph is my favorite. We are also having congestions due to the anonymous registration of accounts, so we are shutting down some accounts, and your account was among those that needs to be updated due to this condition. Okay? Because they're written by people from another country who don't use English as a first language, and they're just phishing. So they're asking for, you know, enter your username here and your password here to have everything cleared up. Now this is another one. This email was sent to the FresnoSheriff.org. Okay? Like I said, they'll send them to anybody. And this woman claims that she's a widow of a general and that she's got some horrible disease, and they need all this help. So reply immediately so I can detail you accordingly concerning this and the next step to take. Please note that you will be compensated accordingly for assisting me and my son to successfully moving this money out of this country for the investment in your country. Big old scam.
10.5 million, they're going to offer you 10%, 20% of that. People say, hey, that sounds pretty good.
Such a deal. It's a scam. This one I got in my office also at, you know, the Alameda County website. This guy, James Mildner, and he gives alleged birthday, and he's from Canada, he says, and he's suffering from throat cancer, and he wants to help less privileged ones, but he wants all your personal identifying information so he can help people. Okay, it doesn't really make any sense, but people do respond. This is also something that the Fresno Sheriff's Department sent us. There's an email address from Denmark, and an email address entered a sweepstakes? Don't think so. Email addresses can't enter sweepstakes, but people respond to this as well because they think they're going to get something. They get greedy. This is one that's from Hong Kong. It's not sent to anybody in particular, and it's just a mass emailing soliciting your attention to receive money on my behalf. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's another scam. They're going to get information from you that will hurt you. So here's another one, and the Internet Nigerian scam. They pretend like they've been having communications with you, that we sent you some documents already, and they think that you have memory problems, or they hope you do, and they're asking for your banking information. And their contract funds for what? This is a complete scam. So they're asking for all this information, your name, address, nationality, age, occupation, banking details, okay? If they're ready to make a transfer to your account, they would have that already. So don't give it to them. It's a scam. It's a way to hurt you.
Now, once somebody has all this information on you, they could contact the bank, identifying themselves as you, and start making electronic transfers of your money to someone else's account.
They electronically are you, and you have no idea. All right, let's see. So how do you avoid these scams? As one of our audience members pointed out before, you don't even have to open them up. You don't have to open up unsolicited emails. If you're not expecting an email from Hong Kong, then don't open it. If you're not expecting an email from James Mildner, don't open it. Delete, delete, delete. You can have a virus protection and firewalls and things on your computer installed, which can block a lot of these things, but you still have to look and be careful about what you open up. So just don't respond, don't open up unsolicited emails. Just like you don't hire the guy that's knocking on the door, you don't open these up and give information. You really can't respond to these unsolicited things. If you think that maybe it's a good idea, or you're concerned that maybe it's something you need to respond to, talk to people. Don't get that idea that it's nobody's business. Please talk to people. Talk to the librarian if you don't want to talk to your kids. If you think your kids are going to say, oh, Dad's slipping, because he's doing this, then don't talk to your kids, but talk to your pastor, or talk to the librarian, or talk to the police department, or consumer fraud protections. There are lots of people you can talk to, and let it be somebody else's business. Let other people support you.
Anytime someone tells you don't share this information with somebody, it's a lie. It's a scam.
Yeah, secrets are always a problem. If it has to be secret, that is absolutely a scam. You have been groomed to be a victim. They have prepared you and they've set you up to be victimized. So you got to know that. You don't send money to strangers, even if they sound really nice, even if they sound really desperate, even if you want to help, even if you feel sorry for them. As good people, you want to support charities and things. There are lots of ways to support charities that will, really legitimate charities that can do a lot more good than sending money to some scam artist in another country. If you really want to help people, there are better ways to do it than to send money to strangers.
These scam artists know that somebody's going to feel sorry for them. They send out thousands of these. Somebody's going to give them some money to live off of.
And that's how they survive. It's a complete scam. Now here's another one, and this plays on basic goodness. And if you saw, or if you're going to see the show, there was a panel discussion that Washington Hospital put together where Detective Ancona and I were also present. And they put together a lot of little vignettes. And I encourage you to watch that show because one of the vignettes was about this particular scam. And it preys on your basic goodness. Somebody calls your house and pretends to be a friend of your grandchild. And maybe they have your grandchild's name, maybe they don't. And they might even be a friend of your grandchild, but they also might just be a drug addict who's trying to get money for their next fix. And they tell you that Joey's in jail, it's a big mix-up, he's embarrassed, he doesn't want anybody in the family to know. Shh, it's a big secret, right? It's a big secret, red flag. Don't tell anybody. We're trying to help him out, and we'll sort it all out. He needs, $500 for bail money, or $500 to bribe the local authorities to let him go.
It might be in Canada. They might be in Mexico. You need to send this money quickly, otherwise they're going to go to jail, and we don't know what's going to happen to them. Again, don't tell their mother. Don't tell their father. There's where it lies. It's a secret.
The friend might even volunteer to come by your house and pick it up for you so you won't be troubled, or even drive you to your bank so you can get money out of the bank. They're so gracious when they're stealing your money. They're really nice about it. So it's a big lie. It is a big scam. If a family member is legitimately in trouble, then the other family members are going to know. It's not going to be a big secret. Don't try and protect, Joey. Call Joey's mom. Call your daughter or your son and find out what's going on. And if Joey's really in trouble, then as a family unit, you can all respond to that. But don't give money to strangers, even if they claim that they're going to be helping.
Absolutely. You got to call the mom or the dad. They say, wait a minute, Joey's right here. So it's a scam.
So that's about doing your homework, right? Check it out. Don't act in isolation. It's a secret means they want you to be isolated. It's a secret means you're getting groomed for a scam. So don't act in isolation. Do your homework. Check out with other family members what's happening. You don't respond to unsolicited requests from strangers. That's a real simple rule to remember. And you don't send money. You don't send money to strangers even if they seem really nice. You are owed money. All you have to do is give us your account information. That's a good one, huh? You're going to get all this free money. Just give us all your information. Think it's a good idea? No. There's lots of ways they can hurt you on this one. They may require a delivery fee. They may require a percentage of money that you're going to give them anyway. They may require account information. If you really are owed money, you know that, right? You know who owes you money. So money's not going to fall from the sky. People who owe you money, and you are owed money by some unknown entity. That's just a scam. So how do you avoid that? Remember the basic rule. If it sounds too good to be true, oh, come on. It is too good to be true. And you have to do your homework, and you don't act in isolation. It's the same rules over and over again, and protect your information.
You didn't bring up the Attorney General's website.
It's at the end. Or I thought for charities I did. Oh, I didn't bring that up. That's a good point. The Attorney General does have a website, and you can check that website out. You can Google it, Attorney General, California, unclaimed property. And if you really are owed money, the Attorney General knows it. Good point. Thank you. You have won a prize. All you have to do is pay a special delivery fee. Just give us your account information, and we'll deliver the prize. You think so?
It doesn't stop there. You're stuck at customs. You need attorney fees. You're not going to get away with paying only one amount to get your winnings of whatever it may be. They'll keep soliciting a little bit more, a little bit more.
Or they'll just get your account, your credit card information, and just start using your credit card. There's lots of different ways they can hurt you on this. You know if you've won something. You know what sweepstakes you may have entered. And I personally don't like to enter sweepstakes because then your personal identifying information is sold. It is sold to everybody. So if you don't like getting a lot of junk mail and you don't like getting all that stuff, you don't have to enter sweepstakes. You really don't.
Are many of you in here receiving notices that you've won sweepstakes? Once you get on a list, you receive them almost daily. I've had shopping bags delivered to me in my office from people who have bid on these sweepstake winnings.
So how do you avoid this delivery scam? Be with me this time. If it sounds too good to be true,
it is too good.
Thank you. Thank you. And you got to protect your personal identifying information. Don't give out that information and do your homework. Same thing. Now this one is kind of similar to, the pigeon drop scam is kind of similar to that charity scam, the Jamaican switch, Nigerian, or South African switch. It's very similar. What it is it's a bait and switch. Oh, we found this money. There's this money, but there's something wrong with it, so we can't tell the police. It's either drug money or prostitution money. There's a note in the money saying, we've paid off the cops, now blah, blah, blah. So there's some stupid reason that the police can't be involved in this found money, and all you have to do is pay in and you'll get a piece of it. It's like the charity switch. They'll give you a wad of cut up newspaper. You won't get anything, so don't buy it. Again, they tell you it's a secret. Whenever somebody says it's a secret, it's a red flag that it's a scam.
And it always works with 2 or 3 people. They lead you to believe that it's just them. Next thing you know, the accomplice comes through, and maybe even yet a third accomplice comes through. There's how it works, leading you to believe that other people are involved, so therefore you want to be involved.
Right. And again, they have props and scripts and costumes. I had a case where one of the women, it was a woman involved, one of the women had a gray wig and a muumuu. That was part of her costume, so that she would look older and a completely different shape. So when she was going to run away with the money later, the description that the victim would have would be completely different than the description of her. Luckily, she got caught on top of the muumuu and the wig. She got caught. But a lot of times people are so embarrassed that they fall for this that they don't even report. And that's what these perpetrators rely on, the secretness. They like to victimize people and say, like, you're so stupid that you fell for this. You can't tell anybody. And that works. Yeah,
again, you think you're embarrassed. You think you're going to lose your independence by contacting the police and say, yes, I've been victimized. That's not the case. But that's what they rely on, that you're not going to tell anyone.
The big thing that all these scam artists play on is your fear. They are convinced that because you're a senior, you are afraid of losing your independence. And they're going to play into that and convince you that if you tell somebody that you've done this, that people are going to try and take your independence away. Or you will internally feel, if I tell my son or if I tell my nephew, he's going to think I lost my marbles and he's going to put me in a home. Okay? That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. You need to protect yourself. And that means reporting so that other people aren't victimized as well. Now here's another one, and this one plays on people's basic goodness. Somebody approaches you and says, look, there's a thief at your bank and we need your help. And they might even pose as the police. The police need your help. All you have to do is withdraw money in cash from the bank and bring it out to us. We'll put it into evidence and we're going to catch this dirty banker. Guess where your money's going? Right into their pocket. You didn't help anybody except the thief. And all you were trying to do was help. And they might even con you into giving your account information as well. Right, Brian?
They're going to ask you to do it again. Well, we need to do this one more time to make sure that we have this guy, good evidence against him. You'll do exactly the same thing again. Give him the money. Okay, we're going to call you in a few days, maybe in a week. We're going to be able to make the rest, and we'll have this thing in the district attorney's office, and we're going to call you because we're going to need you to testify. You'll never get a call, and your money's gone.
And all you were trying to do was help, okay? That's how they play. It's a big scam. What do you get to say to these people? No, thank you. No, I'm not interested. You don't have to help if there's a thief at the bank. Guess what? They have fraud investigators for that at all the banks. They have people who are paid to do that. You do not have to withdraw money from your account to help them catch a thief at the bank.
Now, you can always take down this alleged officer, detective's information, contact that local agency and see if they're Is there really an officer Ancona, a detective Ancona? Is he really working on this type of case? And if with a little luck, they'll say no, and they'll say, well, let's put this whole scam together and do a reverse scam on him, and then we'll start watching them take the money from you, then we'll arrest them.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be good. Now, the next one, and actually, Brian, I think you should talk about this a little bit.
Okay, sweetheart scams happens on a regular basis. What happens is you wait for where the seniors go, store, the bank, and unfortunately this happens to more men than it does women. You're approached by a young lady. Hello, sir, how are you today? Can I help you? Whatever the case may be. Next thing you know, you're involved in some dialogue, you're exchanging names and numbers, and you become friends. Well, maybe a week goes by, this person may call you again, say, hi, remember me? Oh yes, I remember you. Things are not going so well in my life. I can't afford my rent. My children are sick. My husband has left me. Let's get together and have lunch. Well, you have lunch a couple times. Next thing you know, you're paying their rent. You're paying for their groceries, all under the belief that you are going to have some type of relationship with this person. We just recently closed one of these cases out in Fremont, where a gal met up the guy at Lucky's. He was in line, she jumped in front of him. Hi, how you doing today? Just like I explained, dialogue, phone number, meet for lunch. Soon this guy was paying rent, buying groceries, giving her money to take her children to the doctor. Next thing you know, he's cashing out a $56,000 stock that he has, puts it directly into her savings account. He tries calling her. She's no longer returning his phone calls. He had already been to her house, visited one another. He goes to her house. She has since moved. They left that quick as soon as they got the $50,000. Ultimately, he got away with $73,000. Fortunately, one of our detectives, Detective Carpenter, was able to track this woman down. We caught her in Fremont and arrested both her and her husband. Fat chance of getting the money back. It's like squeezing water out of a rock. But yeah, that's the way the scam works. As time progresses, leads you to believe that you're going to have a relationship. Pay a little here, pay a little there. Next thing you know, they're really into your pockets. Be careful, men. Women, it happens to you too, but not as often.
That's right. And the targets for this are widowed 80-year-olds, 80 and up. That's who they target. So the 70-year-olds, they're hoping that the men over 80 who are recently widowed and very lonely and may have some cognitive impairment or memory problems, that's their prime target. They may hit somebody who's really smarter than that, but that's not who they really want. They want someone who may have a little bit of cognitive impairment, because they really do want to believe, our victims do want to believe that they're helping. They're trying to help this 40-year-old woman who's been left alone with 4 kids. Oh, by the way, her husband lives with her, but that's, she lies. She lies to get money, and you're just helping her. These predators, because that's what they are, these predators who come after our lonely older men, they also get credit cards they have credit cards opened up that they're using, that our older gentlemen are paying all the bills. It doesn't benefit our seniors at all. Soon they're owning a Escalade hybrid that our senior who can't drive and doesn't ride in it is paying for. And unfortunately, we've had cases where they get on the deeds of the house and then they strip all the equity. It can progress very, very quickly. The perfect target is an isolated senior. The more isolated a senior becomes, the more likely they are to be a victim of this and every other kind of scam we're talking about.
Become power of attorney. Get the will changed to put them as the beneficiary. Happens regularly.
It does. Anybody here like getting telemarketing calls? Most victims of telemarketing fraud are seniors, because most people who actually pick up the phone when telemarketers call are seniors. And I don't know if you know this, but seniors actually pick up the phone often on the first ring because they're not doing anything else. I am one of many, many children. Whenever I call my folks, I get picked up on the first ring. And it's not just because it's me, it's because they're ready to talk. The telemarketers know this. The telemarketers also know, and this is whether they're legitimate telemarketers or not, they also know that if they keep you on the phone for about a minute and a half, you're going to give them something. They're going to shame you. They're going to make you feel bad if you don't. And because you're nice people and because of the generation in which you grew up, you're going to say, well, I ought to buy a little something because I took so much of your time telling you all my troubles. and they totally rely on that. I have AARP put together a disc of a bunch of telemarketing scams, and it is the most disturbing disc to listen to. It's too long to play in a presentation like this, but they had one gentleman who calls, it's actually a detective posing as a senior, but this is a senior who had been victimized by this telemarketer before. So our detective is posing as a senior and is posing as an elderly woman, an elderly widow, and the scam artist is calling her and is trying to get her so upset that she's going to cry. And then he's shaming her that she doesn't want to purchase this thing. Well, you promised you would do this. It is so psychologically awful. You just feel for the people on the other end of the line. The telemarketers have no shame. They will make you feel bad. They will make you feel lonely. They will tell you that the only people that only telemarketers are going to talk to you because you're not worth it anymore. Your kids are too busy for you. And they'll make you feel bad to get a sale. They will do anything. It's all psychological manipulation. So, can you avoid that? Yes, absolutely. Stranger danger. Just remember stranger danger. The people who are calling you on the phone, they are strangers. You don't know who they are. You really don't have to talk to them. So, one really easy, low-tech way to avoid telemarketers is to screen all your calls. Just have everything go to the answering machine, and if it's somebody you want to talk to, you can pick up. And you can tell all your kids, look, I'm screening all my calls. Well, you will discover if you screen your calls is after a short period of time, you're going to get fewer and fewer solicitation calls because you're not a good number anymore. The good numbers get lots of calls because those numbers are sold over and over again. If you respond, if you answer the phone, that means you're a good number. And so they're going to sell that number to another telemarketer because you pick up the phone.
It's true. My mom does it all the time. She's 79, does not answer her phone, screens all of her calls. Rarely does she get a telemarketer.
And and that's what happens at my house as well. Everything goes to the answering machine. If it's somebody you want to talk to, by all means pick up the phone. If you have caller ID and you just pick up the numbers that you recognize, again, you're screening your calls. You don't have to deal with those pesky telemarketers. There is an organization called Phone Busters. They're out of Canada, I realized, and they have a great website that's listed, and you can get some more information about what you can do to avoid telemarketing. For legitimate telemarketing, for any kind of legitimate business, you can get on the government do not call list. Now, of course, scam artists, they don't care what the government says. So you will not stop all telemarketing calls because they don't care about the rules. But many of the legitimate businesses who do telemarketing will, if you're on that do not call list, won't call.
I believe that's good for 5 years. Is that correct?
So.
5 years?
It's 3 or 5.
What's that telezapper?
The telezapper is a tool that I've heard about, I've never used. It's an item that you can purchase for about $40, and what you do is you attach it to your phone, and whenever one of these computer-generated calls comes into your phone, it sends a message back that your phone number is dead. So it zaps it back, and your name gets dropped off the calling list. Now, I've had people tell me about it. I never have personally used it. So it's something that you could research, and I've been told it's like a $40 or $50 item that you can attach to your phone.
There's a Google search right there.
Many people want to do updates to their home. They want to make some repairs, and that's a good thing because your home is your biggest investment. But this is some place where big scams occur because there are a lot of unlicensed contractors who will take your money and do a substandard job or do nothing at all, just take your money. If you want to have work done, I would strongly recommend that you go to the Contractor State License Board website. They have lists and lists of consumer protections, ways that you can protect yourself, ways that you know that you're dealing with a licensed contractor. If a contractor gives you a number, you can check that number to see if they are legitimately licensed. You can check the name of the contractor who says he's doing this work, see if that number goes with that name. You can see if they are licensed and insured. You can find out what you need to do as a consumer to protect yourself. For example, you don't have to pay 95% of the job up front. In fact, you're not supposed to. It's illegal for a contractor to demand that much upfront payment.
10% initially, and then 50% of the remaining balance at the halfway point then the remaining 50% when you're done. Now, the California State Licensing Board, they come out and do investigations. I've worked with them for victims here in Fremont. So they're well worth calling and contacting.
It's a really good resource, but the best part is the consumer information they have. They do recommend that you get multiple bids. They do recommend that you talk to more than one person before you do a job. And yes, that's a hassle. And yes, it takes time, but ultimately you can protect yourself by checking out their prior jobs, going to other sites where they've done similar kinds of work and see if you like the kind of work that they do. Sometimes they have picture portfolios of their prior jobs, but a legitimate contractor will also say, you know, if you want to see a job in progress, I'm doing a job here, why don't you meet me at that site and I'll walk you through and show you what we're doing. Legitimate contractors will do that. Any job that costs more than $500 for labor and materials, you're supposed to have a written contract and it's supposed to be done by a licensed contractor, just so you know. So there's lots of good information there.
And then from about the beginning of spring through the beginning of winter, you'll have people traveling throughout the whole country, and they're referred to as travelers. And they'll come in and they'll look for seniors out in the yard, stop there, and they look like legitimate contractors. They'll have a truck. The truck might have a light. They may be pulling a tractor behind them, and they'll ask you if you want, example, your driveway repaved or your roof re-roofed. And it's just a scam. Like she said, substandard work.
Yeah, if you really want to have your driveway redone, get the names of a couple of different contractors who do driveway work. Maybe your friends have used somebody that's really good. Talk to them and talk to somebody else. You know, get different views. There are a lot of people who are after the equity in your home. And for most people, our homes are our most valuable assets, particularly if you've been in your home for a long time. It could be your primary asset. There are some abusive lending practices targeted at seniors. You have to remember that whenever you do any kind of refinancing of your house, brokers make huge commissions. And that's not wrong, you know, that's what they get to do. But it may not be in your best interest to refinance, even though it's in their best interest to get that whatever percentage they're going to get by refinancing your house. So they're going to be pressuring you to refinance because they want to make money. That doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to be careful about what you do. Talk to people. Talk to lots of people. Please don't take the position that it's nobody else's business. It is people's business. Let people look at it and give you advice as well. Here, this is yours. Brian's really good about identity theft.
Identity theft is when anyone uses your personal information to obtain goods, services, or money. And your personal information could be your name, your maiden name, social, credit card number, banking account number, even your medical number. Now, and the way you're going to find out about this most often is you're going to start receiving demand for payment letters because you haven't paid your credit card bill or such. So all I can say about identity theft is you need to be aware of everything that you have, your credit card and such. You need to check regularly online to see what's being done with your information. Those of you who have not been a victim of identity theft, you're entitled to a free credit report once a year from all 3 major credit bureaus. What I suggest is to get one quarterly from each credit bureau to cover pretty much the whole year. They all have similar information.
This particular cartoon is a reminder of who's out there trying to get your credit information. What was it, that Citi?
Citigroup. I'm sure you've seen the commercials. They were out about 2 years ago where a guy looked very similar to that, was sitting out by his pool, talking like a woman, saying, I just bought a bra, lift and separate for $400.
A leather bustier, because his identity had been stolen. Now this cartoon says, yeah, I'm calling, and they're asking for all your personal identifying information. If somebody's asking for any of your personal identifying information, please think of this cartoon. Please think of who might be on the other side and what they're going to do with your information. You don't want to give it out. It is very precious and it needs to be protected.
So far, I've found people who monitor their accounts online are the quickest to find that they've been victimized, because you can go online today and see a purchase or a withdrawal from your account and know immediately, I didn't do these. So I highly recommend monitoring your accounts online.
It's a real good practice. Another thing that you can do to prevent identity theft is take good care of your mail. ingoing and outgoing mail.
Oh, that little arm up, all it's saying is, come get me. That's all it's saying is, come get me.
So if you have the ability to get a locking mailbox, that protects your mail that comes in. The reason it's important to protect the mail that comes in is because you're getting billing statements, you're getting account information, you may get pension checks, you can get a lot of different things that come in the mail that could be of value to a thief. If they get just your credit card statement, they have the account number, okay? Or if you write your check on your check, if you write your account number on your check when you pay your bill and they steal your outgoing mail,
They have both.
they have everything. They got your bank account and your credit card account.
You can make your checks at home. All you need is your checking account number, a routing number, and you could buy a program to create checks at home. Now, identity thieves use this often. What they'll do is they'll take your name, they'll take your account information and make one check. Now, they'll go to Lucky's, they'll go to Walmart. You've all seen those machines where they take your check and it slides in one side and comes out the other? All that's doing is reading your account number and your routing number to verify that it has not bounced within their system. They don't care whose name's on that check. They just want to make sure it hasn't bounced. Now, they're going to start passing counterfeits. Usually 24 to 72 hours is what they can do before your account's emptied or before somebody notices that, oh, I don't have as much money in my account anymore. So again, back to monitoring your accounts, you need to do it.
Another thing that you can do to protect yourself from these thieves, who will go so low as to go through your garbage, by the way, is to shred everything that comes in, every request for a new account, all those courtesy checks that you get. I hate those. Here, you have an account with, Wachovia or whatever. You have an account, and here, for your convenience, we're sending these checks to you so you can write checks against this account. All a thief has to do is steal those out of your mailbox, and they're writing checks on, oh, that's your account. And before you realize what's happened, they've taken money that now you're responsible for until you can convince a fraud investigator that you didn't do it. So those are a problem.
Everything that can be made can be counterfeited. So even if they were to take my courtesy checks, or they're actually called convenience checks, they can make a fake license with my name on it, and no one knows really what I look like, so they can easily start passing my checks.
So you need to shred. You need to destroy the stuff that you don't need. You don't need to save every document you've ever generated since the dawn of time. For IRS purposes, only the information you need for an audit, only that information needs to be saved for a maximum of 7 years. You don't need anything longer than that. So you can shred all that old stuff that has all your personal identifying information. Shred, shred, shred.
If you have your boxes of your checking account statements from 1999, shred them. Get rid of them. You don't need them.
You really don't. Anybody here love junk mail? Okay, tired of getting it? There's a way you can get rid of a lot of it, and there's a website. It's Opt Out. Is that the right one? That's the one I found online. Okay. And you can go to that website and sign up to not get a lot of this stuff, and it will cut down on your junk mail.
That's a great site. I signed my wife up and myself up for that about 3, maybe 4 years ago. We do not get credit card offers. We do not get offers for mortgage loans and such. It's great to sign up for if you don't want to receive those anymore. Plus, if you still receive those, it doesn't mean that somebody can't swipe those out of your mail, put all your personal information, and get a credit card in your name. Just change the address to it received in another location.
Another thing that you can do to prevent identity theft is if you are not going to be getting any more credit cards, and many seniors don't need any more credit cards than they ever have, and they're not going to be refinancing anything anytime soon, is you can actually send letters to all 3 credit agencies and say, please freeze my accounts. What that does is it blocks a potential creditor from even seeing what your credit score is. It blocks them out. So they can't give credit because they don't know what kind of a credit score you have. If you already have your accounts, you've already have 5 credit cards, which is probably too many anyway. If you already have those credit cards are still good. They still work. But if somebody tries to apply for a new credit card in your name, they're blocked. So it's a great tool. I strongly encourage you to go to the website. That's a California government website that gives you exact description and even sample letters of how to freeze your credit. It costs a total of $30, $10 to each credit reporting agency to freeze your credit. You don't have to have been the victim of a crime. If you have been a victim of identity theft, with proof of a police report, you can actually get it for free. But you don't have to wait till you've been a victim.
Now, if you know if you're going to have a need for credit or not. If you don't have a need for credit to buy a car, to whatever, large purchase, freezing it is an excellent idea. No one will be able to look at your credit report except existing creditors, whomever holds your credit card right now. Now, not only can you have it closed, but you can have it opened also. Say you did want to buy a car a year from now. You can open it up for a specific company to look at your credit. And that's going to cost you $12 to have that opened up. And it'll be opened up for a week, allowing only that one entity to take a look at your credit. Again, you'll have to freeze it with all the other credit bureaus again, another $10 purchase, but it's well worth the money to save you the headache that may come from becoming a victim of identity theft.
We're going to move on a little bit to investments. Now, there are a lot of really good trained professionals who can help you make decisions about whatever investments you may want to make. There are a lot of people who may be posing as experts in an area. They may have a title that makes them sound like an expert, but may not be certified by anyone. So, for example, a certified public accountant has to take tests to be a CPA. A certified financial analyst has to take tests for that. But a certified elder specialist, they may not have had to do anything. That might be a designation in their company that they know which products should be marketed to seniors. Okay? It could be a marketing term. So you have to do your homework and find out what these titles mean before you just say, oh, wow, this person must be an expert because they say they're a senior specialist. That may be a meaningless term, and you have to check it out. There really is no such thing as a free lunch. I know there are free lunch seminars all the time. They are offering reverse mortgages, annuities, insurance products, all kinds of things. But you have to decide what is in your own best interest. Because they're selling you something doesn't mean it is in your best interest. So remember, everyone is after your money. Even legitimate business people want you to spend your money with them. You need to do your homework and decide what's in really your best interest, including asking, how much commission do you make from this deal? You know, this annuity that you're selling to me, how much money do you make? Because that alone may sour your stomach to it. It's like, that is too much money. I don't think that you should be making that much money. That's in your best interest to sell this to me. It may not be in my best interest. If you know a senior who has been victimized, or you're even just concerned, just your instincts are telling you there's something might be wrong, please get involved. Remember, we are a community. We have friends and neighbors, and we need to watch out for each other. That's the best way to protect ourselves and each other. Get involved. If there's a crime or you're suspicious that a crime is involved, call the police as soon as you can. If it's a non-emergency, call on the non-emergency number. If you're concerned, if there's a reason for you to be concerned, let people know. If you don't think it's a crime, but you're concerned that something is happening to a senior, maybe one of your neighbors just isn't taking very good care of himself or herself anymore, then social workers might be the appropriate call. And it's anonymous. You can call Adult Protective Services, and the social workers will find out what's going on. Perhaps somebody just needs to have Meals on Wheels delivered, and that's a social worker kind of thing that can be arranged. Somebody might not know what resources are available. So please get involved, let people know. If there's a crime, the police will investigate. If a crime can be proven, I'd love to prosecute it. And even if there's a crime and we can't prosecute it, a victim of crime can be entitled to services through our victim witness program, or even through Adult Protective Services, whether there's a crime or not. There may be things for which our seniors who need help can get these special services. So as a recap, because we're running out of time, for your personal safety, please be aware. Trust your instincts. Make sure you are not isolated. Be connected. Stay with people. Program your cell phone with the emergency numbers for your local police department, because we want you to be safe. Don't make it easy to be victimized. In terms of financial safety, the big rule is, if it sounds too good to be true, let me hear it now. It is. Thank you. It is too good to be true. Don't act in isolation. You don't have to respond to any unsolicited requests. You don't have to open the door. You don't have to open the email. You don't have to answer the phone. You don't even have to open the mail if you don't want to. I mean, maybe you want somebody else to do that. Do not respond to these unsolicited requests. If you're looking for something and you've asked somebody to send you information, that's one thing. But you're getting bombarded with things you didn't ask for, and you don't have to respond to that, and I encourage you not to. And you have to protect your personal information because that saves your financial security. Please do your homework. Don't be afraid to check things out. Don't be afraid to let people know what's happening. Stay connected. Get information and don't rush.
Yeah, especially that part about don't rush. Many of you are going to receive these letters. Final notice, third and last letter. Don't fall for that. Don't rush into anything.
Please don't make it easy for the crooks to get your money. Now, on the back page of your handout, there's some really great resources. If you're not somebody who's already using the internet, you can go down to the public library, and a public librarian would be happy to assist you in finding these websites, because there is a lot of information, a lot more information than we could hand out in pamphlets. The AARP website is a really fabulous website. It's got consumer information. It's got information about reverse mortgages and annuities, lots of different stuff, just to make you aware of what's out there. Adult Protective Services is a phone number. The National Association of Securities Dealers, if you're interested in annuities, go to their website. What I have read, and I'm not an annuities expert, is annuities are really not designed for anyone over 65. They're designed for people who are still working to make that kind of investment. However, there are a lot of brokers who will try and sell annuities, which may not be appropriate for seniors, to seniors. They may want you to tie up all your money. You're now 80 years old. They may want you to tie up your money for 20 years, and you're thinking, well, that's a good investment for my kids. But the problem is, if you need the money in 2 years, there are huge penalties. That may not be in your best interest. It's your money. Make sure you have it for yourself first. And then the heirs can worry about themselves, really. The Better Business Bureau has all kinds of information about charities and businesses. The California State Bar, if you're interested in doing some kind of estate planning, you can find a specialist through the California State Bar. And I love the Contractor State License Board. I can't say that enough. So that's the basic information. There's other things here. We are also resources for you. So our contact information is also included, including Brian's email and my email and our basic phone numbers. So I think that's all the time we have for now, except we're going to take a couple of questions. We had a question over here.
How do you get Safeway clerks to stop addressing you by name? I was at the store late one evening, and there was a man behind me that I was sort of a little uncomfortable with, and then the woman said, well, thank you, Mrs. Kamakea, and I thought, geez, thanks for announcing. You want my phone number too?
You know, I would talk to your local manager and express your concern, and you could also just say to the cashier, you know, I really appreciate how personable you are. Please do not address me by my name. It makes me very uncomfortable. You can be proactive about it. It's not rude to say, please don't use my name. Okay.
My question is, during the investigation as well as in the prosecution, have you ever encountered investigating or prosecuting the bank employees for the identity theft?
It is unusual. It has happened. The good news about bank employees getting involved is the bank usually catches it very quickly, and the customer is reimbursed immediately because the bank basically says that that's a bank problem and it's an internal problem. So I've seen it a couple of different times. You know, the bank employees have all gone through background checks, and so when they get hired, they all have clean records. That doesn't mean they won't steal. And so when the bank realizes that there's a problem, they take action very, very quickly.
It happens with bank employees. You may start out to be a honest person with a lot of integrity, but who knows what happens in your life while you're employed there, which may make you or force you to change your habits. It has happened. I have had a few bank employees that I have arrested.
Okay. We have a question in the back.
Yes, to follow up on the previous question about internal identity theft within, for instance, a bank or another loan institution. I've dealt with that. What specific things do you think that the individual can do that can help protect them against it? I know I dealt with it, And I tried to talk to the company, major national bank, about limiting, for instance, ATM use and such, and they refused to make any allowances for the problem whatsoever. So the theft actually took place, some $68,000 in cash out of ATM machines, none of which was necessary if they simply had followed California law, but they refused to do that. What things can the individual do, given what I have already done, to make sure that these sorts of thefts don't take place? In other words, what are the the legal options a person might have?
I think Detective Ancona has kind of talked about those already. You're going to have to monitor your accounts, especially if you've already been victimized. You may want to research going to a different bank that has different policies if you're unhappy with the bank that you have and their ATM policies. By the way, did the bank reimburse for the $68,000? Okay, so they knew that there was a fraud going on. So, okay, so the bank took the hit. That's reassuring. You as an individual did not get saddled with that loss, and that's reassuring. A lot of these financial institutions do have insurance for that, and they treat it as a cost of doing business, but they also have internal investigators. They are trying to catch the people who are doing it. But you got to remember, it's not just banks. It could be your dentist, because your Social Security number's there. It could be your doctor's office, not necessarily your dentist, but the staff who work there, or any other place that has any of your personal identifying information. And the reality is our information is out there. So you have to be vigilant and watch what's going on. As Detective Ancona said, doing credit checks on a routine basis is really advisable. Stopping doing a credit freeze if you don't need any additional credit is a really good idea if that's something that's going to work for you. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.